The night was inky black, and the moon hung low in the sky, casting eerie shadows on the deserted road ahead. I gripped the steering wheel of my old, rusted car, my knuckles turning white from the tension that coiled within me. I was alone, driving down a remote stretch of highway, far from civilization. My headlights cut through the darkness, revealing nothing but an endless expanse of empty road. The radio crackled to life, a sudden burst of static making me jump in my seat. I reached for the volume knob, trying to drown out the unsettling feeling that had settled in my chest. But the static only grew louder, a cacophonous symphony of white noise that sent shivers down my spine. I glanced at the rearview mirror, and that's when I saw them. A pair of glowing red eyes, piercing through the darkness, stared back at me from the distance. My heart skipped a beat as I watched those eyes, unblinking and unwavering, drawing closer with each passing second. I slammed my foot on the gas pedal, my car roaring to life as I sped down the highway, trying to outrun whatever lurked behind me. But no matter how fast I went, those red eyes never faltered. They remained a constant, malevolent presence in my rearview mirror, haunting me. The radio static grew louder, a cacophony of voices now, whispering and muttering unintelligible words that sent chills down my spine. It was as if the very air itself had turned against me, suffocating me with its eerie chorus. As I rounded a bend in the road, I saw something that made my blood run cold. Up ahead, the highway was blocked by a wall of thick, impenetrable fog. I had no choice but to slow down, my heart pounding in my chest as I crept closer to the ominous mist. The fog enveloped my car, and for a moment, I couldn't see anything. Panic welled up inside me as I felt my way through the dense, swirling haze. And then, as suddenly as it had appeared, the fog cleared, revealing a nightmarish scene. I was no longer on the highway. Instead, I found myself on a desolate, alien landscape. The sky above was a sickly shade of green, and the ground below was barren and lifeless, covered in a layer of fine gray dust. The air was thick with an acrid smell that made me gag. I tried to turn my car around and escape this nightmarish place, but it was as if the very ground beneath me refused to cooperate. My tires spun in the dust, and I remained stuck in place, a prisoner in this alien world. And then I saw them again, the creatures with the red eyes. They were no longer in my rearview mirror. They were all around me, emerging from the shadows of this strange, barren landscape. They were tall and gaunt, their skin a sickly shade of gray, and their eyes glowed with an otherworldly malevolence. I watched in horror as they approached my car, their movements slow and deliberate. They had long, spindly fingers that reached out, tapping against the windows of my car as if testing their strength. I could hear their whispers now, a strange guttural language that sent shivers down my spine. I knew I had to get out of there, but my body refused to move. I was paralyzed with fear as the creatures closed in, their red eyes boring into mine with an intensity that felt like they were peering into my very soul. And then, with a sudden horrifying jolt, I was yanked out of my car. The creatures had me in their grasp, their long fingers digging into my flesh as they dragged me across the barren landscape. I screamed, but my cries were drowned out by their eerie whispers. They brought me to a strange metallic craft that stood in the distance. It was like nothing I had ever seen before, a gleaming, otherworldly vessel that defied all earthly comprehension. The creatures pushed me inside, and I found myself in a cold, sterile chamber filled with strange, blinking lights and incomprehensible machinery. I tried to fight back, to escape their grasp, but I was helpless against their superior strength. They strapped me to a cold metal table, and I could only watch in terror as they began to perform unspeakable experiments on me. Hours passed in a blur of pain and terror. I lost all track of time as the creatures probed and prodded, their red eyes never leaving mine. And then, as suddenly as it had begun, it was over. They released me from their grasp, and I collapsed to the floor, gasping for breath. I was back in my car, on the deserted highway, the night still inky black around me. The radio was silent, and the fog had disappeared. It was as if nothing had ever happened, as if the nightmare had been nothing more than a terrible dream. but the pain in my body was all too real, a grim reminder of the horrors I had endured, and the memory of those red eyes, of the alien creatures that had abducted me, would haunt me for the rest of my days. I drove on, my hands trembling on the steering wheel, knowing that I had witnessed something beyond human comprehension, something that should never have been.